Okay, let's do that again. This is the spiritual Judo for Jesus, preparing for progressive Christianity, and I guess I'm going to call it Forgetting Jesus, meaning a response to remember Jesus and modernize an understanding of Jesus' legacy with this approach that I'm advocating and calling multidisciplinary philosophy, to address the simplistic approaches and the simplistic attacks against religion by scientific materialists and secular materialists that violates the limits of science itself, and then also which acts as a reminder of an intellectual, scholarly, philosophical framework to identify the sociological distortion that is represented by science and the name science, which was changed historically and sociologically from natural philosophy, which is a name with more integrity, that represents its activity with more integrity. It is a form of philosophy, and that is a fundamental issue that we see being violated, because it is the understanding of the epistemology that's involved. The fact that science is not simply a supremacist form of lifestyle. It is a form of scientific philosophy that is being used in society. The study of natural phenomena. And so, specifically, I want to address the Sam Harris and Chris Hedges debate from 2007. And I've listened to more recent presentations by them and seen that, well, they haven't really changed so much, which is sadder in Sam Harris's case. Chris Hedges is going strong in terms of his critiques of various things. Sam Harris, meanwhile, is showing sort of his persistence in scientific materialism and his failure to really study adequately multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approaches. So, Sam Harris then, with his comedy routine approach to pop philosophy, in this 2007, uses a strategy that he uses in other videos as well, other performances of his. He says that he doesn't want to be derogatory about religion. He tries to disarm, in a sense, he makes a backhanded attack up front, saying that he doesn't want to be derogatory about religion, that his point is not to offend. But of course, he doesn't have an intellectual and scholarly perspective that can avoid offending. He expresses himself identifying religion as dangerous, as a dangerous ideology, and using a stereotype and making a part-whole fallacy. All right, so I'm going to pause here. Okay, rolling again. And so, Sam Harris then, with his comedy routine pop philosophy, then says that he doesn't want to offend, but his phraseology is to frame religion as dangerous, using a stereotype, basic category error and confusion, to use a stereotype based on both Islamic terrorists and Christian fundamentalists, to smear all of religion, is ultimately how that works. And so, Chris Hedges then, in his own presentation, which is may have been written after reading Harris's book, but has its own integrity. Hedges is talking about monotheism, talks about monotheism as sort of the overarching concept that he's going to promote. He uses it in referring to monotheism as the source of individualism and human rights, which is a pretty, has a lot of sound elements, but doesn't quite get at the strengths that are really more readily accessed in the kind of terminology that the intellectual, scholarly, academic terminology that I'm now proposing, which is multidisciplinary philosophy, then gives us a multidisciplinary theology, Christian theology, based on Jesus' legacy and integrity, and pluralism. I was just reading Washington Gladden, actually, who is really getting at those elements more directly, in acknowledging Christianity's civilization, in Western civilization, with Christianity being the Judeo-Christian, Greco-Roman, amongst those elements, it is Christianity that is the driving force. It has Jewish roots. Jesus was Jewish. So that is a fundamentally important issue. However, Jesus is a pivotal figure and needs to be acknowledged, and his legacy needs to be identified and acknowledged for its key roles in establishing university-based society that then leads to U.S. civil rights and UN human rights, and now, of course, crucially, sustainability and social movements. Right? We really need to include that as well. And so multidisciplinary philosophy gives us all that, along with the basic issue of spiritual religious experience. Now, William Lane Craig can be, I can recognize him. I want to acknowledge him for his 6 arguments for the existence of God, and including point 6 or whatever, depending, of spiritual experience. But then I also need to recognize the limitations that Craig faces in his approach. He has demonstrated over the years, from the videos that I've seen, his conservative personal theology, and so I can certainly see how he faces limitations in his ability to express himself. I don't face those limitations. I'm a bioanthropologist and an international relations master's guy, and so I'm ready to go much further. So let's go. Spiritual experience then leads us to both the scientific findings of the benefits of, I guess these are the psychological findings of the benefits of meditation, prayer, and religious community. That is being advanced, say, by medical policies at places like Harvard University and so on. Maybe Duke as well, and maybe Stanford.